Hey everyone, welcome back to Pearls of Wisdom. Yesterday I posted a video on enable or disable, and it was about mental health and drug abuse. And I'm sure some of you watching that probably is wondering why, that I'm so cold and calloused about it. So today I'm going to share a story, which is the real life account of a particular event that happened. There was this little boy, and his mother was a drug addict, and she abused him as an infant, and then as he grew a little older, she was still abusing him, and she had other kids by other fathers. She had a terrible drug abuse problem. She was in and out of jail. And she was also going to those clinics that I talked about for the free treatment for drugs. So, anyway, it eventually came down to where this little boy was removed from her care from DHS. And then the father came out of the woodwork, and they placed this child with the father, and the father then took him out of state. And years later, it came out that he killed that little boy. And that little boy went through ungodly torture in his care. He was taken out of school and, kept at home, and he was kept up in the attic. And he didn't have any clothes. He had a chair, a dark room, a chair, and a bloody tarp. And that's where he was tortured and beaten. And there was a lot of things that transpired where the little boy tried jumping out of the second story window, to get away, and ended up in the hospital, and nobody reported that there was anything abnormal going on. And then there was another event where the family was able to contact to do a welfare check, and the police went there. Well, they gave them forewarning that they were coming, so they gave the kid some clothes, and it was like he was sitting at the table eating, which he didn't have that luxury any other time. And tried to interview the kid. Well, the kid was so scared because the dad was there, he wasn't going to say anything. So the police, just wrote it off that, yeah, okay, the kid's okay. And like I said, he was taken out of school and just kind of disappeared out of any outside network. While inside the home, they made him, pose in positions for long periods of time. And when he didn't or couldn't keep the position, they beat him. And they also raped him. They took a leg off an old table, and I mean, they did just unspeakable things to this poor little boy. He was, I think, when let me go back. The day that he was murdered is his dad, was beating him, and then he felt that the little boy just wasn't in compliance enough. So he took him by his ears and dragged him down the stairs and took him into the bathroom. I mean, he was beating him along the way. But anyway, he told the little boy, to wash his shorts, and he wasn't doing it fast. Or he said, or I'll drown you. Well, he ended up, beating the kid and then drowning him in the bathtub. And this little boy was 11 years old when he murdered him. And so he went through years of torture. I mean, it wasn't just abuse. I mean, it was torture. They said that was like one of the worst cases that they had ever seen, committed against a child. And I read the court, transcripts, and it just blows your mind how people can do this. Now, the mother, she was on drugs, so one can only presume that the father had connection with drugs as well. But anyway, so the family of this little boy decided to, sue, like DHS and the police department and the hospital and all these people. I mean, I knew the person personally, and we had many conversations about it. And she said that it wasn't for the money. I don't know if she was just trying to be noble and not look like a money grubber, but anyway, they ended up suing, and they had settled on one of the things and got a large amount of money. Well, some of that money had gone back to the mother, who was, still doing drugs and in and out of jail and had other kids taken from her. And I mean, oy, oy, oy. But anyway, they gave her money. And so she ended up using it for drugs, and other drug addicts stole some from her. Well, anyway, the mother ended up dying of an overdose. So, to me, that's a blessing for this world, to where she can't, harm or have any other kids or harm any other kids. The father, he got, I think, 51 years in prison, so that was pretty decent. But the two women living with him, one, oh, I forget. Oh, shoot. I thought the other one got 40 something. They were asking for 40 something. And the other one, I think, got 8, for like manslaughter. But they knew everything that was going on and would report anything, to the father if the child was acting up. And when the dad got home, then that's when he would beat the living bejeebas out of this poor little kid. But anyway, back to the family. So they did get quite a bit of money. And I don't know, when I had moved in, and I was, pretty close proximity to this address, and I mean, you couldn't help but see, I saw that little boy, a few times visiting, but that was it. And then all of a sudden he just, disappeared and wasn't there anymore. But like I said, it was only a few times. Well, I mean, they've granted hundreds of thousands of dollars, to the family. And so we had great conversations of, she said that it wasn't about the money for her. And I said, well, then start a foundation and start awareness, for child abuse, and do things with a school and things like that. Well, she ended up, she had gotten so much money that she ended up buying herself, a pretty decent sized home and a expensive brand new vehicle, and, tons of other things. So I don't know. Is compensation for extended family in events like that appropriate? I can't say that it is. If you don't have, ties. Now, in some cases, I believe that it's appropriate. Like some of these people that get, murdered, then their immediate family members should have some sort of compensation for the loss of their loved one. Especially when they're, innocent victims and innocent family members, and it's not tied to drugs. But I don't know. I mean, that's a hard thing to really navigate. But I guess what my point of that is that so many people believe, like, they want to have a good heart, like, oh, well, we got to save everyone. Well, from my perspective, from a criminal justice background, you can't. These child molesters and beaters and whatever, there's something broken inside, that things aren't firing on all cylinders, and it's stuff that can't be repaired. So it's going to be a constant recidivism problem. So how many victims are enough for you to decide that, oh, this is not appropriate, for society? But that's not where we're going right now. We're just like, oh, let's help everybody and fix everybody. And it's not happening. I mean, even now, I mean, the latest numbers is even the government can't fix it. What about all these children? I mean, granted, yeah, they're migrants, but first it was 300,000. Well, now it's up to 500,000 that these children are missing. And DHS has no idea and doesn't have the manpower to go find them. And if they do place them in a home, they were placing 16 to 27 to one man in an apartment. And it's like, this is not right. But it was just their way of getting rid of them, and so that they didn't have to account for them. Oh, well, we're doing something good. Well, no, you're not. They're going into child trafficking, or God knows what has happened to them. Nobody knows. And I mean, the same thing coming out with Diddy. I think there's a lot of things that you're going to be shocked about. I know that I am. I'm like, okay, I didn't know this went so deep into the Hollywood and the political arena. There's a lot of people in politics that are participating in crimes against children. And I'm sorry, with Waltz all of a sudden trying to rename it, instead of being a pedophile, to be a minor attracted person, and we're okay with that. It's like, no, you're a chomo. That's all there is to it, and you can't be fixed, and we need to stop it. And so that's why, and I mean, our police aren't able to do anything about it, but that's why I think the natural selection process, and put them in prison, and what I mean, let things take their course in there. It's like, I think there's something to be said about vigilantism, that if nobody else wants to do it, or we've got things in place that don't allow it to be done by officers or whatever, then let the inmates take care of it, and they do. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, of course, you have to do your vetting, because the laws, somebody can be labeled as a child predator or go on the registry, and it's basically, it could be an 18-year-old with a 17-year-old girlfriend, and then the parents turn them in. I've come across a number of young men that their lives were destroyed because of that, and they were put on the pedophile list for their life. And it's like, it's not the same. That is just not the same. So I think we as a society need to put aside this idea that everyone is good. Yes, there are good people that do bad things, but that's usually where a mother would go steal a loaf of bread to feed her kids. That's not, I mean, these types of issues, and even, pardoning Hunter Biden. It's like, people were all over the internet. Oh, I'd pardon my son, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, that's great if your son or daughter or whomever was an upstanding citizen. But when you're committing crimes, and you're a pedophile, and you're, a drug addict that can't be rehabbed, no, that is not worth a pardon, in my opinion. And I think that we need to stop being complacent, because things are just getting worse. And I know that most people don't view this from a criminal, justice, or more, from like either the police department or, something having to do with crimes, because it, the people that are involved, it makes us sick. And, just the average society member, they've got a bleeding heart, like, oh, that poor person, just like, I'm gonna say it, like George Floyd, for an example. Why in the holy blankety blank are we erecting a monument for a person like that was a career criminal, that was a drug addict, that committed crimes against people? I believe there was some, like, sexual assaults, but there was, yeah, oh my goodness gracious. And now we have a day set aside, and we're supposed to praise this person. And there was documentation. This police officer went to jail, but there was clear documentation and video that he's not the one who killed him. Being drugged up as much as Floyd was, that's where he had the cardiac arrest. But they were just so gung-ho to convict someone that they convicted a cop. Not that every cop is on the up and up. Unfortunately, there's some out there that are bad apples, but it's like, come on, I am not going to give praise to George Floyd, and I think it's disgusting what we're doing, and that we think that that's okay, and that we're following this movement. And it's just like, oh hell no, that is not somebody that's honorable and worthy. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. You can tell where I'm coming from. It's just like, I'm asking you just to consider what it is that you're supporting. Look into it and see how the fabric of our society is deteriorating, because we are accepting these things that are so deplorable. And I was going to, no, I'm not going to. You can maybe hunt on the internet, but to read that transcript of what that little boy went through, it would make you sick to your stomach. But maybe people should know that, so that they change their mind in how we address these issues. So that's all I'm saying. I guess that's enough for today. that's a whole lot to think about. So I'll let you go for now, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks so much. Have a great day.